To address the Big Ideas Platform 2023 is Adetola Onayemi, winner of the Future Africa Awards 2019 prize in public service, Chief Executive Officer of Norebase, a company building the digital infrastructure that empowers businesses to start, scale, and operate in any African country. He formerly served as Assistant Chief Negotiator for Nigeria, Head Trade Remedies at the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations, where he led portions of the technical negotiations for the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Between 2016 to 2018, he was also the technical advisor to the Nigerian President on Industry, Trade and Investment. He was co-founder and general counsel at Future Africa. He is one of Africa's top technology lawyers. He has advised over 100 businesses in and outside Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Big Ideas Platform 2023, Adetola Onayemi.
So I'm going to be speaking today on how to multiply global GDP. By now, you know I'm excited about global prosperity and what creating wealth around the world can look like. And I'm just going to talk through my slides. Right. What exactly is GDP and why does it matter? Basically, GDP is the monetary measure of the market value of all the goods produced in a country or in a set of countries. In high level terms, it's basically the way to measure the economic wealth and economic health of a country, right? Now, this is the world's global GDP today. It's $100 trillion. You can see that the US is 1/4, 25% of global GDP. China is about 19 trillion. All of Africa is 3% of global GDP, just 3 trillion, right? All of Africa, right? What that means is this. It means it's 7 times better to create prosperity or create a successful business in the US than it is to create in all of Africa. Because Africa is just 25, Africa is 3% of global GDP, the US is 25% of global GDP, period. Now, but my big argument is, can we create a wealthier world? I think so, but I'll get to that in a minute. Now, how has global GDP grown over time? Global GDP usually grows because there's either an increase in capital goods, there's an improvement in the labor force, there's innovations in technology, there's marginal improvements in productivity, and you can see a chart there that shows how global GDP has evolved over time in the different parts of the world, Africa, the US, you can see all of that in one place. And what that means really is that when we create new innovations, whether it's AI or machine learning, or even things like the internet, it creates new wealth, it creates new way of getting productive for the world. But there's one catch, and that catch is borders. But I'll get to that in a minute. Now, the bigger question is, why does growing global GDP matter? Or why does growing GDP of a country matter? It matters because it leads to employment, it leads to increase in income, it leads to increase in spending on health, it leads to an improved quality of life and standard of living. And so if we want to create a more prosperous continent, we need to find a way to ensure that our GDP grows, but we also have to find a way to ensure that the global GDP also multiplies. And so what you want is a case where global GDP is growing, but Africa's GDP as a size of global GDP is also increasing. And why is that important? Today, while Africa is 15% of the world's population, or 16% depending on the data you use, Africa is only 3% of global GDP. But we don't want a zero-sum game. We don't want a world where Africa is losing or the world is losing. You want a case where the big pie is growing, global GDP is growing, but Africa's contribution to global GDP also grows. Now, the biggest obstacle to GDP growth over the last few years has been borders. Why does that matter? And I'll tell you 2 interesting stories that maybe will help you. Imagine you're a person born in Gambia. You're incredibly smart, you're a genius. You know, you just found one easy way to solve cancer or one big global problem. But you're Gambian, right? Gambia has a population of about 2.5 million people. When you cut and slice it for purchasing power and a young population, you end up about 200,000. Now, if you went to a VC or you wanted to raise capital and you said, oh, it's a possible market of 200,000 people, no one is going to listen to you. It's just too small a market. So what that means is that even though talent is evenly distributed, opportunity is not, because you're just born Gambian. Now, what you see also happen is you see companies solve big problems. You see, for instance, questions like Twitter trying to set up a place in Africa and saying, oh, we'll set up in Ghana after several years of having Africa be one of their biggest contributors to their growth. You see businesses with innovation, pharmaceutical companies limiting their production to certain countries because there's scared of regulation in other countries that they don't understand. You see much needed innovation that can improve quality of life, solve hard problems, not having global reach because people are saying, I know this market, I don't want to get into another market. And you see businesses avoid markets just because it's difficult to have access. Another thing that's important is that regulations usually are very tied to geographical borders. So what that means is that countries have to deal with different regulations in different countries. And that means it's an increase to business costs. And so what you have with borders is there's this limit to how global GDP can grow because everyone is staying in their markets. And so rather than having a free-flowing world, we have these limits. And I'll tell you a very maybe second interesting story that maybe points this out. When I was in university, I went to Cambridge. We have colleges, right? We have a college system. And one interesting weird thing that was weird to me was if you were in, say, Queen's College, I was in Queen's College, and you wanted to go to, I don't know, King's College, they would tell you things like you don't have access because you're not from this college. It was always strange to me because I'm like, I'm a member of this university. Why can't I get access to another college? And that's how I see borders, in the sense that we're all humans. Why should I be limited in how I can access another market simply because I was born in one country? And the question is, what will global GDP be like if every market was within reach? If I was Gambian, I could access the entire global market. If I was Nigerian and I could sell anywhere in the world. If I was American and I could sell to Nigeria easily. And that exactly is the mission of Norebase, the company that I started. The idea is to empower businesses to start and operate their businesses anywhere in the world that their customers are. So with Norebase today, you can start your company, you can get operational in any business where you're marketing. And that means incorporations, licenses, trademarks, and even automating your compliance everywhere in the world that you do business. Today, we're live in 58 countries, meaning we're live in every African country, from Equatorial Guinea to Ghana to Nigeria. Every market we can support you. And we're also live in the US, the UK, the UAE, and BVI. Now, but that might look interesting, and people applaud when I say this all the time, but that's not the future for us. The future is this. The future is to get to a world where you can have one single registration and do business in every country in the world. Why? Because I believe strongly that the way we multiply global GDP, the way we ensure that opportunity that exists is available to every talent that exists, the way we ensure that that young child in Guinea can do business globally, the way we ensure that this cure for cancer is not prohibitive to someone in Comoros, is by ensuring that businesses can do business without border. That is the future of business, and that's why Norebase exists. Thank you so much, and that is my big idea.